For the 23-24 season, Talking Wolves is proudly supported by Green King Sport, where football is more than a game.
Green King Sport venues are showing every single one of Wolves' televised fixtures throughout this season. So instead of turning to the internet for a dodgy stream, why not get your mates together, get yourself down to a Green King pub and get closer to the action?
That's right, Dave. And Green King Sport have recently launched their Green King Sport Instagram page. It'll have a load of content on there, some deals and some competition throughout the season. So please do us all a favour. Do us all a favour here at Talking Wolves. Follow the Green King Sport Instagram page so you're the first to know about it. Now it's time to get stuck into the podcast. Hello and welcome back to the Talking Wolves podcast. I am your host, Matt Cooper, and today it's the two OGs. It's just me and Dave. I mean, Dave, you've been a constant throughout the last 2 or 3 weeks, but we can't get the staff, can we?
I know, mate. Yeah, everyone's busy. They've realised you're back, mate. They don't want to take a dip, but yeah, just the gruesome twosome back at it.
Yeah, exactly, mate. Have you? I've enjoyed listening to the podcast over the last couple of weeks or so. Good to see Harry Mansell back on here for the first time in ages. I didn't know if he was still alive or not. I haven't seen him in ages. But yeah, I enjoyed it. I've been away in Mexico for a couple of weeks, which was it was nice to get away. Never been before. I know Finn and Jord have been before, but yeah, it was such a beautiful place. But had a couple of hairy moments, mate. Because it's quite notorious, isn't it, for like being governed by the cartel and whatnot, and being like a little bit rough around the edges. And we landed about 7 o'clock in the evening out there, so it was quite dark. And as we come out the airport, there was like we'll come out the airport onto like, because everyone's ever been like Riviera Maya, it's literally like a straight road down the coastline to all the hotels. And 2 minutes down that big kind of dual carriageway, we saw a dead bloke at the side of the road.
Oh my!
And we were like, oh my god, like perhaps like the rumors and stuff are true. Like we've come to like a war zone, and there was we're not sure what had happened, but like if that was in the UK, like the roads would have been closed off, but there was literally just like an ambulance there, like putting him in the back. And the taxi said to the taxi driver, like, you're not gonna the road's not being closed off. He's like, nah, we're used to it. Just sweep him up and crack on. We were like, oh my god. But apart from that, mate, I had the stomach bug from hell as well. But I think that's like notorious in Mexico. But yeah, apart from that, mate, I had a really good time. So the sun was like, it was so hot, the humidity as well. But yeah, I've really enjoyed it. What have you been up to, mate, in your spare time? Anything?
Just chilling, just cracking on.
Yeah, playing a bit of football, ain't you, as well?
Yeah, just getting the football, trying to get out of the house. Really, just starting my running again today. There is. It should be close to being confirmed very, very soon. A very special event that Talking Wolves are getting to get involved in. So my running will definitely help with that as well. But yeah, going back to to Mexico, a couple of my lads have gone to Cancun a couple of times for like a lads' holiday, and on 2 occasions they've had to bribe the police just for having a slash on the side of the road, like, and then they realise you're British and they think, yeah, we're going to rip these off. So they start from about £300 bribe, and you can get them down to about 50 quid.
To be fair though, it's like, I don't know, at least you know you can kind of get out of it if you end up in a situation, but it's still not ideal, is it? We went off the resort once to Playa del Carmen, and we stood out like a sore thumb, and that's quite a built up area anyway, so we decided to come back. But we did a couple of excursions, me and the missus. We like swam with turtles and stingrays. It was unreal. Like, it was like so cute, them little turtles coming up to the surface for some air. It was class. But yeah, it's a beautiful part of the world, but it's a couple of times where I felt a little bit on edge. Probably no different to a Mexican coming to Birmingham, though, mate.
Yeah, exactly. Right. Yeah. It's just out your comfort zone a little bit at times. That's what it is everywhere, isn't it?
Thankfully, the missus speaks fluent Spanish, so I didn't have to. Normally, I'm a bit of a control freak where I'm like, I have to organise everything, or I have to go to the bar and get a drink and sort everything out. But because she speaks the lingo, I like sat back and relaxed for like 2 weeks. It was great. But I couldn't even be all inclusive, and I was like, "Yeah, I'll get these. You can get these ones in love." It's not the same when we were back home. No Finn and Jord today. I think Finn's at a family meal. Jord is he's actually playing golf. He's a keen golfer, our Jordan. He loves it. I mean, I'm having golf lessons. I'm terrible. I've never played around, but Jordan inspired me. Have you ever played?
No, I'm actually going to the driving range. Got it booked to my mates early part of October, so a couple of weeks away. Apparently, there's one. I don't know which one it is, Shropshire Golf Course or something like that, and they have all the games. You know, like in America, you can do like a driving range, but they have games and stuff.
Yeah.
Apparently, this one does. And it's 19 quid. I said, what, 19 quid each? He was like, nah, for all of us for 2 hours. I was like, oh, or an hour
That's
or
all right.
something. I was like, sounds good. So, yeah, I've never gotten. I don't know. I don't think I'm patient enough for it. To be fair, I don't think I could warrant paying the money for it either.
It's an expensive. I've been having lessons for like 4 or 5 months. So I'm not even out on the green yet because I couldn't even swing in a club before.
No,
Can you swing a club?
I don't know, mate. I can swing a few things, but I don't know. I don't know about a club.
Let's swing a few things, keys in a bowl.
Yeah.
But yeah, we're a little bit depleted this week. But it's going to be like the transfer podcast, mate, where it's just me and you. But we're going to be looking at the Wolves versus Liverpool game. We're going to be recapping that. We're going to be looking forward to the relegation 6-pointer that is Luton versus Wolves. I say that a little bit tongue in cheek. And then we'll, of course, come on to your questions. But Dave, looking at the Liverpool game, the lineup that come out, I always find that the general rule of thumb is if you're happy with the lineup, the performance is going to be shit. Like, when everyone says, like, oh, he needs to play so-and-so there, and like he does it, and everyone's like, oh, this is amazing, and there's a reason why the manager hasn't done it. But I looked at that lineup and I thought, yeah, that's a solid team.
Yeah, and I think it showed it, you know, in the early parts of the game as well. I personally, I thought he was going to stick to sort of the players that he knew of to a degree, but I was actually quite surprised Bellegard to start. But I suppose Gary O'Neill had like 2 weeks with him in a much smaller, you know, group of players, so we got a closer look at players like that, and you know, I think he certainly showed his quality as well. But yeah, I mean, that was the team. Close to the team I probably would have picked. I think I would have possibly had a dedicated number 9 striker from the start of the game, whether that be Fabio or Sasha. But I think the team that started the game for at least 45 minutes anyway did a really good job.
Yeah, I think Gary O'Neill's coming for a lot of stick in terms of selection substitutions, especially in this game. I think we'll come on to this, but I think Dave and I are, as you can imagine, happy clapping, but kind of understand the rationale behind some of the selections. But mate, it was a fantastic start, and it's so frustrating that we didn't capitalise on those chances, because there was like 2 or 3 clear-cut chances, including the goal, which you have to be putting in, especially against a team like Liverpool, because they will. I mean, that bench they had was unbelievable, and then you can see the changes in the second half changed it, but it's just you can't. You know, you're going to get punished.
Yeah, I mean, that's sort of been the story of our season, hasn't it? And I know we are creating a lot more chances and a lot more clear-cut chances, which is great. But Manchester United, we should have got something out of if we put the chances away. I think the Brighton game could have been completely different if we had taken chances before half-time. And arguably, you know, obviously we won the Everton game, but arguably the Palace game was the same. You know, the balance of all of our games so far, we could have easily got something out of those matches. The Brighton one maybe is a stretch too far, but you know, at 1-0 we were certainly in that game, but we missed 2 golden opportunities, and it was the same on Saturday where, you know, we took the lead, a really good goal, brilliant from Neto, who had a much better showing today, on Saturday. Sorry. From the South Bank end, I couldn't tell that Hwang's goal had gone in, because obviously Allison had sort of it creeped over the line, but from where we were, we didn't really have a clear viewing of it. But yeah, we've got to take, you know, if we go into that game 2-0 up at half time, I think we have enough in us as a team to see out the match. But yeah, obviously the chances that we'll talk about it's just really, really frustrating.
Yeah, I thought one player who looked back to his best and also as expected when playing him on the left was Pedro Neto. It's a strange decision from Klopp, really, to put Gomez, a left-footed centre-half, who was stepping in field into the Trent role. Well, I don't know what. Like, I think we spoke about it yesterday. Like, what you like swap over Tsimikas or whatnot and put him in there. But Neto had him, and I like Joe Gomez. He had him on toast, and every time he come forward, he looked confident, wanted to beat his man, and he's so much better going on the outside.
Yeah, I like that a lot on the you know, Neto on the left hand side. he put in a couple of great balls, and you could have, I don't know if he still is, but he's up there with the top assisters in the Premier League so far. I think I read today he's got the most key passes out of any player in the Premier League as well. I saw a couple of comments over the weekend about, he's probably one of the best Premier League wingers at the moment, which I think is possibly, and no disrespect to Neto, I think that's probably a stretch too far, because I think there have been some games, even like the Everton game, I thought his overall performance was really underwhelming. But obviously, at the end of the day, he put one ball, a great ball into the box, which we scored from, and on the the score sheet it says Kalajdzic goal, Neto assist, and that goes down on his records. But I thought overall the 90 minutes he wasn't brilliant, but really stepped it up. I think Saturday was, for at least 50 to 60 minutes, his best performance in a Wolves shirt anyway. And I think he was unlucky that he didn't get another assist or two as well.
That's the thing as well. Like he's probably been robbed of like 2 or 3 more assists, hasn't he? He definitely looks back to his former self. But we've said this about a couple of players before, haven't we? Where they've said that, and they've just like the confidence and performances of bombed. But he was definitely robbed of a second assist with that Cunha miss, mate. We've spoken about indecisiveness and hesitancy in and around the final third. For me, that completely surmises that. It's Cunha is thinking, am I going to kick this? Am I going to head this? And he's ended up trying to knock it with his left bollock. Like, I can't believe he's missed it, mate. He's centre forward.
Yeah, it was. I think I agree. It's sort of, the ball is at that awkward height, but for Cunha as a forward, he needs to make sure he either gets himself into the right area to either head it or volley it in, like you said, or basically just got his body positioning or attacking positioning just completely wrong. And they're the fine margins. Like I said earlier, you go in at that game 2-0 up there. I think Wolves, coming to the second half, a completely different team. And yeah, I know Liverpool scored 3 goals, so they could have easily, got some out of the game. But Wolves, momentum and mentality wise, are going to that half time completely different. And that's frustrating, really, really frustrating. And Cunha is, and again, I think he showed it in glimpses on Saturday, such a good footballer. But I don't want to get into this sort of almost a Dharma Traore type argument where we're talking about his goal contributions and numbers, because I think, no disrespect to Adama, I think Cunha overall can be and is a better player than that. We've just got to see it more often. And I think just after that miss as well, he went on a sort of mazy run himself, and then the shot was awful. It went well wide. So yeah, hopefully it's a confidence thing, and hopefully we can go to the cliche, once he scores 1, he's just not going to stop scoring. But we really need to, we need to see something from him sooner rather than later. I saw 1 or 2 shouts on our comments that maybe he should be dropped, which I think would be a bit too harsh, because I think he does contribute a lot more than just goals and assists. But yeah, and any other forward. But we certainly still need to start seeing numbers. It's great, Hwang already scored 3 league goals. That's 50% of what our top scorer got last season already. And if we can get Hwang, if we can get Pedro Neto, if we can get Sasha or Fabio and Cunha all chipping in 7, 8 plus goals each, then you'll be in a comfortable position come the end of the season.
I think Bellegard's going to get a few goals as well. I noticed that. We'll come on to his performance separately in a bit, but he was what Palace were doing to us essentially on, when was it? Was it last Sunday? They have like that third man running to the box, and Bellegard was doing that every single time, and I nearly got on the end of a header, didn't he? But it's funny you mentioned about Adama, and I think he had the same issue as Cunha, that his ability, his ball striking ability is like really poor. Like that shot when he took it through past like 2 or 3 players, like I don't know whether it's composure or conviction, but his ball striking seems like poor. And I know people are probably thinking, what do you mean he's ball striking? He's a footballer, of course.
I sort of get what you mean.
But like some players like Neves or Neto, like a really clean strike of a ball, like pinpoint accuracy, or I don't know who else have we had who've got like a Barry Douglas, for example, like can really strike. But he just, I don't know, it just seems like out of control whenever it comes to finishing. I don't know his composure or his ability. I mean, he scored that goal against Leicester where he smacked it in, but
I do get you. Almost like he almost hunches over the ball sometimes
Yeah.
when he like hits it. I
It
I
doesn't
can
look
understand
natural,
what you
does he?
mean.
When he's like, it's like Adama when he used to like cut him with his left, and he'd be like hitting it with a chipping wedge. He just like
Yeah, no.
just like swings his leg like straight,
Yeah,
and you're like,
mate. Yeah, I think it'll come though. I think like the hardest thing sometimes in those in that situation is actually getting in the right positions. So he's done pretty much 90% of the what he needs to do. The other 10% is just putting any part of his body behind that ball to stick it into the back of the net. And I think if he hits it cleanly, it's going past Allison. Allison won't save it. So this is what I'm talking about with the fine margins, and that's why I think it, I'm not going to say it's unfair on Gary O'Neill, of course, because he could have dealt with things a lot better throughout the rest of the game. But for him, his players need to start doing the business when it matters most.
I think that was apparent in his post-match press conference. Like, didn't single out anybody, but you can see he's frustrated with the players. But like you said, he's not immune from criticism, and it's a results business. But you can't like legislate for like that Cunha miss and whatnot. Like, it's just the chips are down a little bit on him. I do feel for him a little bit, but let's talk about a debut performance from Jean Rickner Bellegard, mate. It looks, and again, let's not get we're drinking from the Kool-Aid just yet, but it seems to be a wonderful bit of recruitment from the club. So we like to put the boot in on the club when they haven't done something well. So I think it's important that when they do something well, that we do celebrate it. But I think in terms of a debut performance, that's as good as I've seen considering the opposition and how. I think the biggest compliment you could pay him, Dave, is that he slotted into that team like he'd been playing there for 3 years. Tactically, very intelligent, right place, right time, and showed like real confidence and real like attacking impetus to get his head down and have a go.
Yeah, I like the role that he picked up as well, to be fair. And I think with him, he could play as a holding midfielder. He could play out wide. I think with his
Play
ability, he could
anywhere by
play
looking at
there,
him, yeah.
really. I expected, if say Huang, I know he might have picked up a knock on Saturday, so that's worse than feared. I think you reintroduce, for Luton, for argument's sake, I think you reintroduce a number 9, Cunha into the 10, and Bellegard out wide, similar to how Nunes was playing basically before he done me out. But yeah, he was really, really solid. I think driving forward with the ball, his ability on the ball, his aerial ability. The one where I saw a video of it again today, the ball's booted about 30 yards into the air at the sky. It comes down, he just chests it down and carries on with it. I was like, that's just ridiculous. So yeah, it looks like even the training videos, he just looks very, very good. But like you said, early days, but I think a player like him, he's full of momentum and confidence after a good start in France already. I think he can win us some points this season.
Yeah, he just looked like he fitted right in. It's important to have those type of players as well who can do you a job anywhere on the pitch. But when he pulled, I don't know, he's clutching at straws a little bit. Like, this is all we've got to celebrate. But when he pulled that ball down onto his chest, like most players would, because he had time, would have probably just tried to take it down on the knee or whatnot. But all I was thinking was, if it's cold and that catches his nipple, he's in serious problems. He's in serious trouble because it come down with snow on it, that did. But really, really impressed with his performance. Pressed well as well. Lots of energy. That midfield three though in the first half, Dave, they reminded me of Liverpool of old, to be honest, where they'd just like steamroll teams and just the intensity couldn't be matched. But the issue is with that, and which we'll come on to, is players tire. That stylistically, players tire playing that system, and it can't be maintained for 90 minutes, which is why it's so important when you've got the upper hand, you capitalise on it.
Yeah, it's such a high pressing. If you press it in the final third, especially against teams like Liverpool, and like you mentioned earlier, the quality and ability they were able to bring off the bench. It's going to get players like, you're bringing off Alexis McAllister, bringing on Luis Diaz. You're like, flipping heck, like you're bringing off one world class player for another, really. So it is difficult, and yeah, like you said, if you are playing at high tempo, high intensity, which we were throughout the first half, and it showed, and we got rewarded for it in the first half. You've got to make sure that you put yourself in a position for when the fatigue levels do kick in, you're in a comfortable enough position that you can see out the game. And unfortunately for Wolves, that's what happens. So Gary O'Neill now needs to try and find that balance, because it is a good and entertaining way at times of playing. and we will get results sometimes playing this way. But we've really got to look at the negatives as well and the consequences that it can have, not just from the one game, but in the future as well. Because if you're playing at that tempo, intensity, pressing all the time, come December, you're going to start to see more suspensions, more fitness issues, more injuries. So it's something that has got to be carefully managed.
Yeah, I mean, I've got some stats in front of me from the game in terms of high turnover. So basically, winning the ball back within 40 meters of the radius of the opposition's goal. So it's about 5 yards inside the D of the centre circle. So fairly high up the pitch. Wolves had 7 high turnovers. Liverpool had 6. If you can do that to a team like Liverpool, who are full of players who are pretty press resistant, I'd say, the likes of Slobsai and McAllister,
Yeah,
and even Jones and the fullbacks. Probably not so much with Gomez at right back, but none of those high turnovers led to shots. This is as per it's an account on Twitter called Mark R Stats, whereas Liverpool had 2 shots. But the positives to take from that is, say if we go and play Luton on Saturday and you deploy the same kind of system, you're going to have more. You're going to win the ball back high up the pitch more than you are against Liverpool, United, City, Arsenal, because they're a lesser quality of player. But it's just that decision making that we just seem to be lacking. There was a couple of there's an instance in the first half where Neto broke and Wolves committed probably 2 or 3 players into the box. And I think it's a criticism of Neto, and it's probably the only one from the game, is that when he's got one player to aim at, he finds them. But when he's got like 3 or 4 options, he more often than not picks like none of them. Yeah. And I think that's just another example of that.
Yeah, no, I understand. I watched him believe it or not, I watched him a couple of times during the summer for Portugal 21s, and he did a similar sort of thing. It's just like he dwells if he's right. Who do I pass to? Who's going to put this ball into the back of the net? So yeah, I think, like you said, even the Cunha chance. If I thought no way in hell is he going to be able to pick out Cunha there, because he was on his own in the box if I remember rightly at the time. He did. So yeah, and it was a great ball. The technique and everything about that cross was really, really good. But yeah, I mean, like I said, the positives are at the moment from the first half at least that we're getting the players into the right sort of areas. We've just got to get that ball into the back of the net.
Second half, mate, completely changed, didn't it? You knew that Liverpool weren't going to come out the same team. Diaz came on, and I think he completely changed the game. He was a cut above anyone on that pitch, to be honest. As soon as he got the ball, played it in, he was gone, and they switched to like it's hard to see in the North Bank because you're behind the goal, but it felt like it almost felt like a 4-2-4 the way that they were going forward. But
yeah.
The subs changed the game, unfortunately, didn't they, for both teams? Let's talk about Gary O'Neill's substitutions first, because as I just alluded to, he got a lot of stick for it. But you and I seem to think that a little bit of that is unwarranted.
Yeah, I think, to be honest, I think the subs he made had to be made. I think the one obviously which is going to cause the most confusion is the Dock one. Matt Doherty coming in on a right wing.
Yeah, that was just...
but all the others for me made sense. I think at the time the attacking players lacked any sort of energy to press, and that's why Fabio came on. I think the defensive midfielders obviously the same sort of thing, and that's why the likes of Boubacar and so on came on. Obviously, Aït-Nouri picked up an injury. So the subs that he made weren't necessarily the wrong substitutions, but it's the way the team, not just from after the subs, I think the second half in general was disappointing. Someone said to me at half time, would you take 1-1 now? Because of how well we played in the first half, I thought,
now fuck off.
Now I thought, no, we're going to do these stupidly. But yeah, I don't necessarily think the subs are the wrong ones, but it'll get to a point now where I sort of vented my frustration a little bit at Fabio on the review, because everyone knows we've sort of, and people do agree and people disagree with us on, for backing Fabio up throughout, his time at Wolves, but just nothing stuck to him. It was just bouncing off him every time. He couldn't trap the ball. He couldn't bring other players into play, which surprised me because there have been other games where he has been able to do that. But what will happen now is that Gary O'Neill will start to lose trust in these players that he's bringing off the bench. You know, people talk about Sasha. I don't think it necessarily would have been the right change to make, especially at 1-0 up or at 1-1. But it will get to a point soon where obviously he's going to be picked before Fabio comes on anyway. But yeah, the main one for me was the Doc one. But then at the same time, I think if you did want to bring another winger on, like a direct winger for winger, then why isn't Enzo Gonzalez on the bench to make his debut?
Perhaps I don't think he's ready, but which is what we've spoken about in terms of players like kind of tiring towards the end, purely because of the way that they're playing and the way that Gary O'Neill has asked them to. So Bellegard came off. Lamina came off as well, didn't he?
Yeah.
Then you had Hwang come off and Cunha. Apart from Neto, they're probably four of our Lamina, give or take.
I thought Lamina was really good first half, to be fair.
4 players who are excellent at carrying the ball, and that was our biggest threat against Liverpool, and that threat was completely nullified as soon as they come off, and then that invited Liverpool on even more. But he had to make those changes. Hwang, I noticed in the first half, Robertson broke away from him, and he was trying to sprint after him. He was hobbling. Whether his hamstring's still fucked or not, you don't know.
Yeah,
that Doc change didn't really make much sense, but I probably would have tried to keep Cunha on for an extra 10 minutes because, again, he gives you that, he stretches a play. Fabio, for me, this season has been crap. I don't think there's, and I think that's not being harsh. He has been crap, and you know that we've backed him ever since he's come to the club. But this is where I think they wanted someone like a Che Adams, because he would have helped a lot more in that game with Cunha coming off. He's a big lad. He's powerful. He'll stretch the game. He's quick. And then when you bring Silva on, who's not really any of that, he's not a slouch, but against them two at the back, he probably won't have a chance. It allowed them to push up, and it was just barrage after barrage after barrage, wouldn't it? And that's where we lost the game. But the changes, most of them were enforced. That's what we're saying. If you're playing that kind of system, you've got them in that kind of style. You've got to take your chances, because there's going to come to a point where you're blown out your arse after 60 minutes. Like João Gomez probably would have come off if we could have had another sub, because he was blowing out his arse. He was excellent, by the way, first half. But
yeah, look at the sub now, because it was 1-1 when we made the changes, really. Literally just after the goal. And that's when Doc came on. So I don't know if Hwang did have a knock. But for me, then and then obviously Cunha came off for Fabio. But for me, you just put Cunha on the wing for a little bit, or you play him on off the left and Neto off the right or whatever. So there's ways that you could do it. And no disrespect to Doc, but that just did not work. I don't understand the thinking behind that whatsoever, unless he was possibly going to a back 5 to see out a draw, which obviously would have been a risk. And then obviously Aït-Nouri came off, and that's when they scored the 2 goals, which, again, no disrespect to Bueno, but I think Aït-Nouri did a really good job on that left-hand side as well until he got injured. And that's where the goals sort of came from that side, although the second one should have been stopped way before.
Every time the ball was played to Salah, he was obviously under instruction, but he was straight up him when he got the ball, and he didn't really have a sniff at all until Aït-Nouri went off. But that's like 2 or 3 times now where he's managed to do a job on Salah. But that second goal, mate, it's just so frustrating. Like, it's just, they defended fairly well for like 50, 55 minutes. And then there's a few people to blame, in my opinion. You've got Sarr, who's got the ball and he's trying to release an early pass to Neto. 9 times out of 10, those kind of volleys or daisy cutters, whatever you call them, never find the man with him.
Yeah.
So why is he trying it? Because he knows he's not going to do it, and he's doing what fans want him to do. So fans can't be critical and say he doesn't release it quick enough, and when he does it, it doesn't even reach halfway line. It's really poor. But then the move itself, it's a 40-yard 1-2. It's pathetic defending. Question marks to be raised about who should be tracking Robertson's run. He's run 40 yards and got on the end of his of a pass from Salah when he passed it to Salah himself. Like, it's musical statues again, and it was the same at Palace. It was just ball watching.
Yeah, it was crap. That was Sarr from start. I've not watched the highlights back, to be honest, but from the stadium, Sarr, it was a dreadful distribution. It looked like he should have done better for the save as well. But like you said, it should have been stopped Robertson's run should have been tracked a lot better. But yeah, we have seen that. Palace, it was. That's just like watching the game rather than like almost too flat-footed, the centre-halves in particular. And then obviously going on to the third goal, I think Dawson, embarrassed him with how he, gets done by Nunes. I don't think he was on a booking at the time. And I think, for me, just pull him down, take a tactical booking. That's it. Keep us in the game. But, he gets spun. Yes, maybe there's a shout for a head injury in there. But what's frustrating about that one? Obviously, I'd assume Michael Oliver would have let that play out and see if they scored, and then see if it would have been a foul or whatever. And they could have ruled out VAR. I think it was 5, maybe 10 minutes earlier. I don't know if it was at 2-1 or at 1-1 when I think there was a similar instance. The Fabio went for on goal, and then the referee pulled it back for a foul, and it was a fit. In my opinion, it was a 50-50.
Yeah,
I think let the move play out, and then if it's a foul, that's what you've got VAR for. And it's just annoying that this didn't happen in that instance there. But too easy. The last 2 goals, we could have easily come out of this game with a positive result, and again, our own stupid mistakes have cost us really.
Yeah, the third, I didn't realise it was a deflection when I first watched it back. So I watched it as soon as I got in the car. Sarr's travelling as the ball struck, and he's on his heels, so that's why he collapses like a sack of shit, because he's got no set position. But it's gone down as a Bueno own goal, so you can't giving the benefit of the doubt it's a deflection that's took it past him. But that should have been stopped earlier on. But this is where I think O'Neill should come into some criticism. Why on earth are we playing front foot pressing, get out to your man as quickly as possible, defending with 64-year-old Craig Dawson? Because he can't do it. If you're defending a low block and you're defending your area, head and kick it, he's the fucking man. He's probably the best in the division for it. But when you're asking him to play that role, how many times this season I've seen him in the North Bank running back to goal because someone spun him? He's just not cut out for that.
I think, Lopetegui got it sort of bang. Lopetegui obviously tried to play a little bit higher, but at times, he played him in the right role, and, Dawson was arguably, he got some people's vote for player of the season, even though he came in January. He got a lot of praise, but with this current role, it's just not cut out for him. And I think both of them go wondering a little bit, both Dawson and Kilman. Nothing came of it, but in the first half, Kilman went wondering up, and he actually went into the box for a cross. And I thought, I looked at the pitch and it was just Dawson back on his own. I thought, I hope to God they don't counter here. And we got away with it, fortunately. But yeah, we have got to be cautious. And I know we had a small discussion about it last night, but there's going to be calls for Santi Bueno to come in soon enough. But when's it going to be? Are we going to need to see the Ipswich game next Tuesday to sort of, to bleed new players in, or could O'Neill make wholesale changes for Saturday? I don't know, but something needs to be done about that back line because it's not good enough at the minute.
Yeah, we're creating too many chances, really. But Gary O'Neill said in his post-match press conference that basically that he was alluding to the centre halves as going to do their own thing, which I've noticed when we're defending, they're so far apart. I don't know if that's through design or not, but I think, Dave, we could see a change against Luton. I think we could see Totti come in for Dawson. That would be, if we we're going to change it, that would be my change anyway. Kilman's come under a lot of stick. Someone's got to be the scapegoat, hasn't he? He's the captain. But do you think some of it's unwarranted? We've had quite a few questions about it, to be fair, but everyone's or a lot of fans seem to think that this role of the captain is like this, you have to have an aura. It's like this massive important thing, but I don't think it's that important, Dave. You'll have leaders on the pitch just because he's wearing an armband. I don't think in a professional sphere it means that much. It wouldn't. He's not like a Cody, for example. You look at him and think, bloody hell, that lad's a captain. But
yeah,
I don't think it's that important.
It depends because I think that the pros obviously with Cody was that, and you used the phrase quite a lot, was an organizer as well. You could always
Yeah,
hear him very vocal, and I
yeah,
think that obviously helps. With Wolves at the moment, I think they've got more. Dawson could do that. You've probably got some of the forward players like Lamina will do it. It's not just about the one player who's the captain. You've got to have many players, some of which have played at a very good level and an experienced at a top level. A lot of these can be classed as your sort of organisers as well. So it's not all down to Kilman as such. I think obviously the main thing people look at is that he seems to be quite shy and quite quiet. And I think sometimes that does actually represent, his play style at times. He's scared sometimes, in my
yeah.
opinion, of getting his body in there and those 50-50. So I don't think him being a captain is a negative. But I think, yeah, unfortunately, he is that scapegoat a little bit. But I think a lot of players, I think Dawson and Kilman will both know that they need to be performing better this season. But you look at I always remember that, and I think I probably mentioned it on the podcast before. We're very quick to blame the goalkeepers and the defenders for conceding goals, but why? Let's look at the forwards as well for not
Yeah.
putting that ball in the back of the net. Cunha obviously would have got some stick. Fabio obviously got some stick, but we need to focus it on the whole team really. The whole team can contribute more to their jobs.
If you think about like in terms of what kind of like features you'd want from a captain, ideally, for me, they have to speak the language.
Which it
I
does,
speak
yeah,
English.
obviously,
Yeah,
yeah,
has to play most games, which
yeah,
he does. It can't be the goalkeeper, really. I don't think a goalkeeper should be captain, even as a former goalkeeper. You can't you can't control the game from where you are. You can see most of it, but it's hard to get your message across. So out of those three, who who's a
Dawson
candidate?
probably would have been my pick, but I
But
think
they're
for
not
what,
going to. Dawson's probably not going to be the starting centre half in 2 or 3 weeks' time, and they probably knew that.
yeah, I'm with you. To be fair, I think it's the vocal thing. A lot of people
Yeah,
will say more
yeah,
than anything.
yeah. I
But
agree. It's something that he needs to improve on. But well, I think we've spoken about this before. Oh, don't you can't coach that into someone. It's their makeup. You can't make someone like aggressive and outgoing and extrovert overnight. It's just you've either
no,
got it or you haven't. But people saying that he shouldn't be captain and they should strip him of the captaincy, I think that would be so counterproductive. In the same breath that being a captain and having the armband isn't a massive thing, I think stripping someone of the captaincy is,
yeah,
because it just rubs people up the wrong way. And usually stripping someone of the captaincy means one thing: the player's gone very soon or the manager's gone very soon.
yeah.
And I don't think either of them are going to happen. So what's your thoughts on that?
No, I agree. I don't think you don't change the captain. Well, you just both of them, like I said, they just need a bit of a kick up the backside. I don't think that's Kilman being captain is the reason why we lost on Saturday, or Kilman
No.
being the captain is why we lost against Palace or United. He's obviously got a good influence around the dressing room. Otherwise, Wolves wouldn't have given it to him. So yeah, we'll wait and see. But there's a long, long way to go, and I think people do forget that we've played some very, very top teams already. So far this season, and you would say if you got given this fixture list, before United away, you would have looked at it and thought, which teams are we going to get points from? Everton was obviously going to be one, and Palace was going to be the other one. Obviously, we've only failed at one. So we've just got to kick on. Games against Luton, games against Villa coming up as well. They're the games that we need to focus on trying to get points out of.
Yeah, we've got Luton on Saturday at Kenilworth Road. Only 1,000 tickets available in the away end, little pokey old ground. You're not watching the game, are you, Dave? You're
No,
going out.
I'm out on the lash on Saturday, so
Whee!
yeah, Matt will be doing the review, all being well. But yeah, I
Yeah,
mean, the only game I've missed this season is Everton, and we won. So there you go. Take from that what you will. But yeah, I mean, you would hope that we've got enough quality to beat them. We saw the preseason friendly. I know we getting 0-0 between the two, but Wolves should have enough quality to beat them.
must win any, Dave. Must. I know it's early to say that, but
I
these
don't.
lot are
Yeah, I
just
mean,
happy making the numbers up.
yeah, I think if we lose, on Saturday. I don't think Gary O'Neill will be sacked like a lot of people have suggested or asking the questions, but there will be a hell of a lot of pressure on him because if we lose that, we've got City, which again I don't like to write us off straight away, but you probably say 0 from. It then puts a lot of pressure on the Villa game, and that being sort of a localish game, you lose that, and I think by the start of October he could possibly be gone. So he needs to win this basically, which I think we will. More than enough quality, and you play like you did in that 45 minutes against Luton, the game should be done sooner rather than later.
The only way that these famous last words that Wolves go there and lose is if they're outfought and Luton want it more, because technically Wolves are a far superior side. Luton have built a good championship side in the aim of they'll go down and consolidate, which is what they think is the best option for them. Then fair enough, but they're there to, and I think it's even quite evident from their socials, their fans. They're here to make up the numbers. They're not happy to go down, but it's not the end of the world. Like, we've got to go there and put a fucking performance on.
They've got to, yeah, because like you say, they'll be up for it. Rob Edwards obviously got ties with Wolves as well, so he'll want them to be up for it. Like you said, the only way they can beat us is by they've got some big physical players, by being out forwards, and Wolves have just got to use that quality which we know they've got to put teams like this to the sword. And we've just got to make sure, however we do it, whether it's scrappy, whether it's quality, we just got to make sure we come out 5 p.m. on Saturday with 3 points.
What changes would you make to the lineup, if any? Norris should be fit. He had cramp, I think, which after 60 minutes is pathetic. Easy enough for me to say at 17.5 stone, but
I think you start the same team, believe it or not. If everyone's fit, I think you start the same team. I don't know, because I think, look, the downfall against Liverpool came when we started to make the majority of the changes and stupid errors. But I think that team for the first 45 alone showed they've got more than enough quality to. I can't see who else would come in, to be honest, unless he's changing the centre halves like you suggested earlier.
I think he may make one change, if that, only because I think a lot of fans have called for like wholesale changes. But if you're Gary O'Neill, it might be a bit of a shithouse thing to do, but if you make loads of changes and you lose the game, it's completely on you. And people are saying it's like out of your mind. Why has he made so many changes? So I think he's probably thinking of that as well, because he knows he's under pressure, under pressure in inverted commas. He ain't going to be going anywhere. He's on a 3-year deal. But I think that's one of the reasons why he won't make loads of changes because of that.
I think, and the reason I think Dawson will stay in is with the way Luton will play, they'll just be whipping the ball into the box at every opportunity they can get.
I think that's a fair point.
I think players like Dawson are going to be there to, head it back out or whatever. I don't know. I can't see where the change would be, though. Maybe at fullback. Maybe if his knock is worse than feared, like I suggested earlier, possibly bring a striker in. Maybe even a start for Sasha. I don't know. And put Bellegard onto the right-hand side or whatever. But, we should have, and this is no disrespect to Luton, we should have enough quality to beat them. But these sort of teams are the banana skins, really, because they can go into this game, especially at home, wanting it more than us, fighting harder than us. They've got, like I said earlier, a physical team. So it will be an interesting battle, and I don't think it will be as straightforward as fans hope. But, yeah, we just got to make sure, however we do it, we get 3 points.
Last time Wolves went to Luton, mate, was it FA Cup?
Yeah, Solbakken.
Yeah, lost his job afterward, didn't he?
Yeah. Rumours are that he got sacked on the coach.
Really?
I don't know how true that is, yeah.
But yeah, that's awful. Didn't mind Solbakken, to be fair.
It's right man, wrong time, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. And Dean Saunders was wrong man, wrong time.
Yeah.
Moving on to the questions, mate. I've had quite a few that have come through on Twitter. Some really good ones. Quite a lot of repetition from some of them. And an example of this is from John Littler, who's asked, Who would be your favourite captain replacement for Kilman? I rate Kilman as a player, but personally think he's better off being let to play his own game without the added pressure of leading the team. Again, I think that's a fair point as well. You don't know how that pressure is weighing him down, but if you could pick someone else there, who do you think it would be?
I think the only other two candidates off the top of my head would be Dawson and then possibly even Lamina. I'd probably say Dawson would be the most straightforward one for me if he were to be playing the games.
I think the reservations about Lamina
can lose his head quite quickly.
It's just a bit emotional, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. And you need someone, especially now that the referees are clamping down and whatnot. I think he's probably a little bit emotional. Also, Dave, I forgot to mention this, the Liverpool game. What did you think of Michael Oliver's performance? Because I feel like I'm going to try and start doing this every time we come back to review the games. Very critical of referees when they've done something wrong, but I think every week we should highlight what we actually thought of the performance, because we never say, yeah, the ref was great, like he didn't do much wrong, but how would you rate his performance?
Mixed, I think. Like I said earlier, I think there's a couple of instances that worked against Wolves. Was the one where we had that attacking chance and he pulled it back for a foul, which I think was dubious from where I was sat. The one where the young centre half kept going down with cramp, and then when he realised the ref wasn't going to stop the game, he got up and started running again, and then he go down again. But then there's, I think he wasn't as card happy as I've seen referees, compared to like the Brighton game. I think he tried to manage the game as well as he could, but with about half an hour to go, that's when he started to lose control a little bit, to be honest. But wasn't the worst refereeing performance I've seen down at Molineux, but I don't think he was the best either.
No, I think there's a couple of times where he could have let things go, pulled it back for soft fouls. But Amar's Music Show has asked, when Lopetegui got us ready for the start of the season, our team seemed incredibly fit. The intensity over 90 minutes against United was evident. Do you think under O'Neill, the regime, our fitness has deteriorated? That's why we are crap in second halves. I don't
think your fitness levels can deteriorate that quickly.
No.
Within the space of like 4 weeks, to be honest. Well,
I also think against United as well, like they were awful, and that midfield was they were blowing out their arse after like 20 minutes, weren't they? So I think that's.
Well, even our key chances against United were all in the first half. The only ones that came in the second half was when United already won the up and sitting back. So that's naturally that would happen anyway. Yeah, I do agree. We're out the blocks quite quickly, but I think you said this the last time you're on. We're going to always look back to that Manchester United game, like all season. We're going to look back
when
to
we
it.
Retired.
Because I think the players knew they had a point to prove as well. But I think that's very, I don't know what the right word is, to point it at a fitness regime. The reason why we're not playing, I think that's a bit picky, if I'm being honest.
Yeah. I agree. I don't think it's because of that. Juicy Fruity has said, what does Sasha need to do to start a game? He's clearly our best number 9 and seems to be the only one with an eye for goal. We cannot keep having Cunha as a lone striker. It's important to remember he's come back from an ACL and it's his second one. But also, and I said this to you, Dave, last night, I feel a little bit sorry for him because I feel like he's only ever going to be deployed when there's 15 minutes to go and you're chasing the game. Purely because of his profile, I don't think Gary O'Neill fancies him.
Yeah, so a couple of things on that. I think, like you said, I don't think he's not at the moment. He's not going to be able to start and play 90 minutes still. I think, especially with his sort of pressing style, and that's probably one of the reasons why, like you've just said, he's not picked. But I would probably, I think I would start him soon. I think if he doesn't start Saturday, he'll definitely start against Ipswich on Tuesday. But he has said we can't keep having Cunha as our lone striker. I think Saturday was the first time he played as a lone striker all season, to be fair, because Fabio has played every other game, if I remember rightly. Yeah. Oh, no, he played against United, Cunha. So I think it will come. I think we're just going to be patient with it with Sasha anyway. I think we've got to be patient with it.
He'll play against Ipswich, won't he? He'll start against Ipswich in the Cup. I think he's like the perfect striker to play away from home.
Yeah, because you can't play like pretty football a lot of the time away from home unless you're much. And Ipswich aren't a crap team.
No,
Ipswich
good manager as well.
Yeah, Ipswich will be an interesting battle depending on the strength of their squad they put out. But I think he'll probably. That's why I think he might start Cunha again on Saturday, and then he'll start Fabio and Sasha together Tuesday.
Canada Mike has asked, sell a lot of players, plus some starters, but more importantly, some leaders. Employ a young, very inexperienced manager. Appoint a young, decent defender as captain when he isn't that type of leader, when it affects his own performance. His question is, what are we doing? You say about selling a lot of players, some are leaders. Neves was a leader, yeah. Sadama was good around the place. Jimenez, quite a quiet character. Matinho, wanker. Well, he is for what he did, refusing to play. I'm sorry, but that's not on. And if you listen to Liam Keane podcast, Express and Star, Matinho is in the Matinho business, and he doesn't really care about anyone else. As long as he's all right, and that's fine, apparently. But I don't think there's anyone else there who's.
I think this season's overhaul. This season's overhaul didn't have such a negative impact on this squad than the season before.
Ruddy, Sace, and Cody,
yeah, all in one. If you asked that question this time last year, and I've been like, yeah, fair enough. But no, I think a lot of the players, other than Neves and possibly even Collins, you could say, a lot of the players that did move on needed to be move on anyway. Yeah. And obviously the manager thing, people will agree with, rightly or wrongly. The captain thing, obviously, we've already discussed as well. So I can appreciate that, but it's still, I think it's still too early to be throwing questions like that about. And like I said, with the quality of opponent that we've played so far.
A French Wolf has asked, lose to Luton and the knives will be out for O'Neill. I think he's right in saying that. Say the bad form continues into October, and will we see another sacking like we did with Lodge? I know O'Neill has a 3-year contract, but there is a clause in year one. I'm not sure whether that's true or not. I'm not 100% sure. No. Who would lead the search? And will there be a sacking in October? It'll be Hobbs who lead the search, wouldn't it? But he could be. Jeff might want to get back involved in it if it fails. Yeah, he had nothing to do with his search, did he, Jeff? It was all. I think he's still Matt Hobbs.
Like I said earlier, I think he's got to beat Luton. If he doesn't, and you lose to City, I think he's got to just get up to that Villa game, get to the start of October, and that make sure our heads are above the water. Because then you can, I mean, if I quickly get our fixtures up here whilst I talk, because if you can get through this Villa game, you then play up until like November. You got you got Bournemouth away. You play Newcastle, Sheffield United, Spurs, then Fulham. You know, and then throughout December, there's winnable games as well. So I think if he can keep his head above the water, I think he'll get into at least Christmas. But
do you say what do you think? Say we go into the Bournemouth game with 6 points. Do you think he'll keep his job?
Yeah, because I think he will, because there's only 3 league games before then. So if he beats Luton, he'll get a bit of breathing space from City and Villa. But that Bournemouth game, I don't know.
Looks like a biggie.
I think it could be almost like, and I try to think, you know, when like a manager's like, right, you need to win this, and he'll just always manage to win the games that he has to win just to keep his job.
You think he's dead, and then he's
but
back
like
alive.
he just somehow, man, like I know Nuno was never under really that pressure, but I always remember Nuno. When we first came up. And it sounds mad saying this. He went like 6 or 7 games without winning.
That Huddersfield game at home, everyone's like, he's going to get sacked here.
Yeah. And then all of a sudden, he just pulled some class streak out.
Chelsea, wasn't it? He went 3-5-2.
I think, like I said, it's still so early to say, and I don't think the performances. Obviously, the second half is are frustrating, but I don't mean the level of performances, like when you balance it out, are that bad. So I still think he deserves and needs a bit more time. Just judging purely by the quality of opposition that we've had so far. But I think if you give him time, he could genuinely, December, we've got Burnley, we've got Forest, both at home. We play Brentford, we play Everton again, before the new year. There's a lot of points there that Wolves realistically can still achieve and still get themselves in a really decent position before the January window, which Wolves have already said they want to strengthen in.
Yeah. Richard Fletcher has asked, what is your opinion of fans who are late back to their seats constantly and regularly nipping off to the concourse? It's a ball ache for fans around them and can restrict your view regularly. Is it poor social awareness or just crap support? See, it don't really bother me. Where I am, there's not that many people who do it, but I always feel bad like if I need to go for a piss off, pay for the first half. Make sure I say sorry and thank you on the way back up, but it doesn't really bother me.
Bit different for me in the South Bank because you stood up anyway.
Yeah.
And there are people like nipping in and around. Always about 35, 40 minutes, half the stand empties anyway to go for a pint. I just stay down there anyway, to be fair. But I can get it if like you're sat on a row and like the bloke in the middle keeps nipping off. But in the South Bank for me, it's a normal thing anyway, to be honest.
Yeah. Final question, the most important one from Sean Mitchell. Favorite breakfast cereal? I absolutely love cereal, but I never eat it because of the amount of sugar that's in it.
I never have breakfast in general, to be fair.
Cereals, I know it's fucking cliche, but better in the evening anyway.
Cocoa Pops for me, I know it's a basic one. I enjoy a bottle of Cocoa Pops or alternative supermarket own brand ones. Cocoa shells or whatever they call them, chocolate shells. Don't mind like frosted shreddies, but like you said, like the sugar in them is like astronomical. So you know what I always wanted as a kid as well? I was obsessed with, like, my mom would never ever buy me. Now Cookie Crisp.
Oh, Cookie Crisp was class.
I was like, Mom, you gotta buy me that. She was the sugar. And I maybe got it once or twice, and it was like the best mornings of my life. But yeah, mate. In hindsight, you know,
Cookie Crisp. Do you remember Golden Nuggets as well?
I used to love Golden Nuggets.
Nestle Golden Nuggets. I tell you what, I really like Crunchy Nut Clusters.
So I'm not a nut fan. No, I'm not a nut fan.
Oh, they were.
No, it's they changed names. Those Cinnamon Grahams, Curiously Cinnamon. I used to be obsessed with them.
Golden Grahams, aren't they? No, something like that.
So Golden Grahams was the other one. They were like a honey type, and then the cinnamon ones, but they were caked in cinnamon. But yeah, they were unreal.
What's your thoughts on? Oh yeah, Curiously Cinnamon. What's your thoughts on Shreddies?
I like plain Shreddies, but I have to put that a little bit of sugar on them myself. Yeah, a little
bit of sugar.
Too plain.
See, I used to like sugar puffs as well. It used to make your piss stink.
Yeah.
Unless that's just me.
No. I know what you mean. I like sugar puffs and what was I about to say?
Cheerios as well.
Like Frosties or something like that. Hey, Cheerios, mate. I'm easy as long as it ain't nutty. I'm easy, but yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
we just name the whole cereal aisle.
Them Lucky Charms I always wanted as a kid, but obviously for the same reason as your mum.
Kellogg's multigrain. You ever have them?
Oh, fucking hell, they sound awful.
No, you would. No, they were nice. You could buy them in a big box, but I always used to have them. You remember when you used to go on holiday or something like that? You'd buy all the mini cereal boxes.
Oh, little variety box. Oh, mate, the nostalgia that is.
Yeah. I don't know if they do them anymore.
I don't know. Do you ever have Crave?
Yeah,
I think that's like after our time though.
No. Yeah, I remember Crave. I remember. Yeah, I like the chocolate ones. Yeah.
Again, your mum and dad would be like, nah.
Nah, that was a rare one. Yeah.
Did you when you went to like school and stuff, did you have breakfast or did you used to skip it then?
I used to have it a lot more then. I probably haven't had breakfast for a good 11, 12 years.
Why?
Just never have. Just wake up, shower, and go to work. That's it.
What time?
If I'm really early to work for whatever reason, I'll go shop and buy a yogurt or something, like a Muller Corner or something. Yeah. It's still not that healthy, but Yeah, just never had it. Toast every now and then. Toast if I'm feeling adventurous.
It's not a cereal, but I absolutely love muesli, but it's not very good for you. Again, it's full of sugar. I could eat bowls and bowls of muesli.
Never got into that either.
It's got nuts in as well. Well, some of it has. So probably not for you, but that's probably the most engaged we've been on podcast, mate. It's always the case, isn't it? It's always the case. That's all, folks, for this week. Hopefully, the boys can put on a performance against Luton because it is must win. And I feel like the fans owe us a big one. Not good to see a few goals as well, but I'll be covering the match review and reaction because Dave's deservedly out on the lash, so I'll try and do his try and do himself some justice on the review. But hopefully back with the rest of the lads too next week. But Dave, where can people find you should they wish to follow you?
It's at Dave as a party on Twitter and Instagram.
I am Matt Cooper Bites and M Cooper Writes. We are Talking Wolves across all social media platforms. If you have enjoyed the podcast, if you're listening on Apple or Spotify, please do drop us a 5-star review. It really does help us. If you're watching on YouTube and you're not subscribed, please drop us a subscription and a like on the video. And also, as I'm rounding off the hat trick, please go and follow Green King Sport on Instagram. There'll be loads of content on there, deals and competitions throughout the season, and they're our proud supporters for the remainder of the season. But yeah, until next time, Dave, and all of our listeners, take care and enjoy yourselves.